You said that this was a part of the interrogation so that you could get to the bottom of this sniper, but it didn't work. If you don't know, now you know. Okay. If that's not black excellence, I don't even know what to say. What it is, what it ain't, it's your girl Ombre Alert, and I am back with another video, okay? In today's video, we are getting into a biopic series about the movie Detroit. If you've seen Detroit, if you love that movie that came out in 2017, let me see what you got to say in the comments, okay? Before I even get into the movie, make sure that you comment below to tell me how you feel about this movie. Did it pull at your heartstrings? Because I was crying, okay? I was crying because I felt it on another level. If you're feeling what I'm saying, make sure you comment below. But as you know, like all my biopic series, I'm just going to dive a little bit deeper into the movie, telling you about what's going on in Detroit around 1967, the year that it happened, talking about, you know, racial tension within Detroit. We're just going to dive right into the movie and the era, okay? So if you're ready, let's go. It's Ombre Alert. Make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this. You don't want to miss out. I do have more videos on the way. I have been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, so I apologize if this video gets up a little bit late, but it's better late than never, okay? I am here. We're doing this video right now, so let's go. Just to give you guys a little background of what was going on during the time period, this was the Great Migration. The Great Migration is when black people moved from the South to the North to get better opportunities. The Industrial Revolution was happening, so it was a little bit less about farm life and cropping and, you know, and picking cotton and such things like that. Slavery was over, by the way, so by the end of the Civil War, slavery was over, so it was a little bit less about farm life and more about rural city life, okay? So that means factory jobs, laborers, that means truck drivers, all of that, okay? That's a little bit of what was going on around the time. So black people moved from the South to the North to get better opportunities. Once they got to the city, they got jobs, you know what I'm saying? They moved into neighborhoods. But while the Great Migration was happening, white people wasn't really feeling that, okay? So some white people stayed in the city, but others moved from the city to the suburbs. So with that move and the relocation of white people, they took a lot of opportunities from black people away from the city and took it right to the suburbs. So this created a natural segregation within the city. So white people stayed on their side, black people stayed on their side, or they were moved like to the projects, if you will, of just as an example, Detroit, but everywhere this was happening up north. So in DC, this was happening. In New York, this was happening. In Philadelphia, this was happening. In California, this was happening. This created a natural divide between blacks and whites. So black people moved into the projects, you know, very crowded. You know, black people, we have a lot of family, we have a lot of kids, you know what I'm saying, naturally, because when it's black love is strong. Back in those times, you know, black families would have up to 9 kids living in one apartment, and it was very cramped, and this was like that for almost every family around that time. It was a lot of competition as far as getting jobs. There was a lot of people with multiple jobs and multiple hustles. It was a lot of kids on the streets. It was a lot of crime. It was a lot of racial tension. So that's some of the things that were going on around that time. It was civil rights. It was all these things, you know what I'm saying? So bringing it up to speed to 1967, you know, black people just grew tired of getting harassed and arrested for no reason in their own neighborhoods that we've kind of, you know, built. In almost every neighborhood during this time, black people were making their own businesses and making their own ways. As you know, in some of my Black Excellence Untold videos, like black people were really doing their thing, giving back to the community through their businesses and their churches. And, we were prospering during a lot of the early 1900s. We prospered. And white people wanted to put a stop to that at any cost, because they thought that us being successful meant that they were unsuccessful. Instead of everybody having wealth, white people wanted to be the only ones that had money, and everybody else had to suffer. With all the killings and the beatings of black people just grew tired, So here come the riots. The Detroit riots happened. Black businesses were getting burned to the ground. Looting began, so people were stealing out of people's businesses, and it went on for days, even weeks. You could say it was a destruction of the neighborhood. And with the destruction of the neighborhood, white people were actually looting as well. They were stealing. And nothing happened to them, of course, because they could just blame it on black people and say that they were never there. Kind of like how the riots happen today. It's a lot of looting going on, and you see sometimes it's white people starting it, and it's not black people starting it. With all of that being said, a lot of demented people and psychotic people were involved in the Detroit Police Department. There was a lot of racially motivated police officers, during this time of the riots. And, with them being psychotic, it comes a natural premeditated, harassment and murder, and this to me is being a lawful serial killer. If you wake up every morning, you have a natural hate for a certain type of people, and you go out there, you put on your outfit and you're ready to kill someone, like, that's premeditated to me. So a lot of the officers were doing that in Detroit at the time of the riots. On the third day of the riots, this is when the Detroit movie comes into play, and the murders occurred at the Algiers Motel. Now, there were 10 black men at the Algiers Motel. There were 2 white women, and 3 black men were murdered. Aubrey Pollard, who was 19, Fred Temple, who was 18, and Carl Cooper, who was 17. All 3 of those young men were murdered in the motel because there was speculation of some sort that there was a sniper in the motel. Being as though it was a sniper rumor, the Detroit police were there, the National Guard was there. All of those people were there to investigate and see what was going on as far as why there was a sniper at the motel. Now, this motel was black owned at the time of the riots, right? 1967. But in 1960, it wasn't black owned. It was owned by a racist white man, a guy by the name of William Thibodeau. I think that's how you say it. I apologize if I'm butchering that. He actually worked at the motel from 1960 to 1961, and he said that up until 2 years before the riots occurred, or up until 2 years before the situation at the motel happened, the men wouldn't have been allowed inside the motel because it was owned by a white man, and he did not allow black people in the motel. Of course, this man, he only worked at the motel for a year. He did say that it was sad what happened or whatever, but who knows if he really meant that or not. Because to me, I feel like it says a lot if you worked for someone that was racist. Even if you're white people know what's wrong and what's right, and it's not right to be racist. It's not right to treat certain people like shit, and treat other people great. Like, that's not cool. So if you work for somebody that's racist, even especially as long as a year, then it says a lot about your character. Moving on, I guess what his whole point of saying that was that the motel increased in drugs and prostitution after black people got to the motel, which is understandable because a lot of black people lacked a lot of opportunities within the city because of white people. White people were trying to stop black people from doing everything. That's the way it is, When opportunity is ripped away from us and we got to feed our kids and do all of these things. Black people, we're willing to do whatever to make sure our family is straight. So it is what it is. So as the movie progresses, you see some of the men are highlighted. Lead singer of the group Dramatics, Larry Reed. The movie highlights him because he wants to be a star. He's the lead singer of a group. He's trying to get a shot with Motown. I do want to talk a little bit about the scene where he was on stage, and right before they were supposed to go on, the riots broke out, so they couldn't perform. And once the theater was completely empty, that's when Larry Reed, the character, went on stage and sang his portion of the song anyway. And I just thought that foreshadowed what would happen at the end of the movie, him having a lonely career. Even him singing the song, "Then You're Lonely, So Lonely," like, to me, that just kind of foreshadowed that he would have a lonely, road, because he was a real man. He was a soldier, and sometimes you have to stand alone. So I thought that was an important scene in the movie. It does also highlight Melvin Dismukes. He's a security guard at a grocery store at the time of the riots. When he was working at the grocery store, he saw the scene where he saw a man going back and forth with the police, or a young man going back and forth with the police. He was calling, I guess he called him Uncle Tom, and I think there was a older guy that he was working with in the grocery store, and he didn't want no parts. Like, he was like, "You can go out there if you want to, but I'm not doing that." And I did find out some interesting things about Melvin Dismukes, and I will talk about that in a future video, so stay tuned. Okay, so the whole idea of the death game, right? That was like the whole basis, or that was like the defense, the defense of the police officers. They were saying that, they heard that it was a sniper. I mean, their form of interrogation was to intimidate or scare them so much that somebody would tell them where the gun was. So their idea of doing this death game was to, separate the men, take a couple of them, put them in a room, and shoot a gun off as if they had killed one of them, one by one, so that somebody would tell them the truth. And if that was the case, then it would have actually worked. That was my whole point, is that you said that this was a part of the interrogation so that you could get to the bottom of this sniper, but it didn't work. It didn't work. This tactic, it did not work. They believed that they were killed, but it still didn't get them closer to their answer. It still didn't get them closer to where's the shooter, is my point. It did not work. It did not work at all. So that's what the police officers claimed that they were doing, and they probably were doing that because they do like to mess with black people and be irritating as possible. But I feel like it was definitely racially motivated, and they had a little bit too much fun, to the point where they actually started to kill. So Carl Cooper was the first to get murdered in the movie. He was the one that allegedly had a toy gun and was caught running out of the motel, and then he was shot in the back twice. I believe that they were, amped up by seeing the women, the two prostitutes that were white. They were definitely amped up after they saw them at the motel hanging with some of the black people, doing whatever, they did in their prostitutions. I'm pretty sure that made them even more mad about the situation, because, white and black, they asked them, like, why are you fucking them? Why not fuck us? And all this other stuff. So it was a lot of that going on. It was a lot of racism. So Carl Cooper was the first one to get shot. Then Aubrey Pollard was killed. While, in the movie, he begged for his life, begged not to be shot. And it was said that, the officer, he reached for his gun and he warned him, and then he shot him. But that's not what happened. Of course, some of the things in the movie are dramatized, so they're not like what actually happened, but it's kind of giving you an idea of what could have happened. The particular instance, like the fact that Carl Cooper ran and was shot from the back, that's probably what happened, but we don't really know. So I think that's important to put in the video, is that some of the scenes were dramatized, of course, but it does give you an idea of what, the whole movie is a dramatization. That's the whole point, is to kind of show you what happened. Medical examiner actually said that all the teenagers' bodies were in non-aggressive postures. So meaning that they weren't in an angle where they were being aggressive back, or being defensive or anything, or threatening. Fred Temple was the friend of Larry Reed. So all three men were murdered, and the police said that they were basically defending themselves. There was no gun found, you know what I'm saying? And the trial ensued. Okay, so actually David Sanick was the one that was the ringleader. He was the one that had killed, in the scene in the movie, he had killed the guy looting the grocery store in the back. When you're a police officer, you're not supposed to shoot people in the back. And apparently he had done that before, and then he killed another unarmed black man after he killed the one that looted the grocery store. So that's a little background on him. He's definitely a racist, and he was the one that was racially motivating the other officers to do what they did, even though he can't make them do it, but they did it. Okay. So David Sanick, he was the one that killed Carl Cooper. Either got killed. He was the one that was the first one to get killed. They're saying that he either got killed from the array of bullets that were shot into the motel, or he got shot trying to leave the motel. He got shot, like in the movie. Robert Pale and David Sanick killed Fred Temple. He was the second one to get murdered. They killed him almost simultaneously, meaning Robert Pale probably fired the first shot, and then David Sanick finished him off. And then the last person that got murdered was Aubrey Pollard, and Ronald August actually killed Aubrey Pollard in a either kneeling position or laying on the floor. He shot him. So all three men were murdered and executed. There was no threatening positions. They weren't. I think Ronald August, at first he confessed that he did kill him, and then he changed his statement and said that it was self-defense and that he was, trying to grab his gun, whatever the case may be. And then the other two officers said that they were defending themselves, that it was a scuffle or fight, and the evidence clearly shows that that's not true. All of those statements were trash and were lies, of course. After they killed the three men, just like in the movie, they had to keep quiet and not say anything, but they didn't actually do that. The whole incident went to trial. They were eventually acquitted of all charges, including the assaults, because they beat all the men, and of murder, they were acquitted as well. And that just goes to show you how racially motivated the government was back in the day, because if there's reasonable doubt that someone committed a murder, then they definitely should have been given the life penalty and given the death penalty, especially being police officers doing things like that to human beings. And that just goes to show you that people didn't look at black people as human beings. They looked at us like animals, like we don't matter. So like in the movie too, Larry Reed, he did have a very hard time after his friend Fred Temple got murdered. He had, and just basically experiencing that level of trauma for the first time, as aggressive as it was, I feel like he had a hard time moving on. As real people do have a hard time moving on through trauma. He really could not avoid what happened. It was a horrifying situation. That was his best friend. He didn't see him get murdered, but his best friend got murdered. And then he got beat up by the police, and he almost got murdered too. So it was very challenging for him. After the fact, he was the lead singer of a group, and the other men in the group, they just didn't understand because they weren't there. So they didn't understand his trauma and his pain, and they didn't they knew Fred Temple too, but they just didn't understand. They expected him to just push all of that to the side and just sing about whatever, you know what I'm saying? And he was adamant in the movie about like not wanting to sing to a white crowd, not wanting to make more music for white people to enjoy, and which is understandable after his experience. And it's kind of crazy because his experience shifted his mind. Like before, he was making out with a white woman, and in his mind, he probably rationalized it like, fuck, if I would have never even like met them or been around them, then maybe it wouldn't have happened. And you could say that different ways. You could say maybe if he wasn't at the motel, it wouldn't have happened, but it could have happened anywhere, is my point of view. But he did, he did have some trouble. He left the group. He never rejoined the group. The group went on to be successful. I was happy to see him go to a church and join the choir, because I know that like made him feel better, and that lifted his spirit, and probably made him feel like he was closer to his friend. I really did like this movie. I enjoyed it. If you enjoyed me talking about this movie, make sure you leave me a comment below. I will be coming back with more info because I want to know more about the two women that were there. I want to know more about Melvin. I want to know more about Larry. See what we can do in the next video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.